Hello, Nope Coach Fam Bam. It's Suzanne Kohlberg. Welcome to episode 102, Mud Pies to Manifesting with the Heather Tobin. And before we start today, as you're listening, as you're tuning in, if you're able to do so, I encourage you to pause and reflect on, as it stands, what does manifesting mean to you? Do you hear that word and like have a word allergy and be like, ooh? Or do you think we're going to go, oh God, they're going to give me some secret bullshit, I have to close my eyes and go, checks in the mail? Like, what is your preconceived idea when you hear that word, manifesting? Because when we get clear on that, I think, and get that out of the way, then we can really listen. Because I don't know about you, Heather, like I have to, sometimes someone will say something and I'll be on a whole journey with the word. I miss the next 5 minutes of what they're saying. And then I come back in and they're talking about something, not what I had associated with it. Am I the only one? Do you do that too?
I do that too. I have my moments where I'm just like, wait a second. What did you mean by that? That's not how I took it.
So yeah, let's get some preconceived things out there. And you might not have any, and that's okay. And for the record, my son Casimir, he said something about manifesting. And I was like, what do you mean by it? He's like, finding a man, like manifesting. So like, when my friend comes over, and I was like, okay, that's kind of funny. But yeah, like I think the majority of people, I imagine, would have some sort of connotation due to the secret. But what do you mean, Heather? Take the stage, take the floor. Mud pies to manifesting.
So, quite simply, manifesting is just a fancy word for creation. And what I love about it is people think that manifesting is all the good things. Meanwhile, we're manifesting all the time. So if we were to never even say the word manifesting again in this conversation and just say creation, how does that sit for people who are listening? Does that sit differently in your belly? Like really drop into that for a second. Okay, so I create my day. I create my response. I create my actions, my reactions. There's no good or bad, which is another whole other topic. But, and that again is a school of thought that I have that not everybody buys into, and that's cool, obviously. But when we think about what we're creating, the way I originally would teach this is the concept of mud pies, because my company name is Rock Your Mud. That's my actual company name. And so my clients, my audience know me as like Queen Muddy and, rocking it in the mud, with the meaning of when you're in the mud, you need to be in the mud in order to grow. You need to be in the mud in order to create, because that's how a lotus comes to be, right? No mud, no lotus. Very popular book title. So when we move from mud pies to manifesting, the concept is more for people to have kind of a visual or a feeling conjured from it, but the actual title probably needs to be changed because it's all creation. Even the mud is creation. Even the soil and the dirt and the situations are creation. So when it comes to manifesting, the idea is we really are in charge of our experience here. And how we choose to go about our experience is our choice. And it's through all the decisions we make. It's through how we look at the world. It's our viewpoints. It's our opinions. It's our conditioning. It's all of the everything collected over all of our years. And then deciding, well, what am I getting and what am I creating from always reacting this certain way in this certain situation? And am I happy with that result? And when you're not happy with the result, or content or whatever your favorite word is. I like to use in harmony with personally. If it's something that I am no longer feeling in harmony with, then something within me has to change. Whether it's my attitude about something, whether it's my approach to something, maybe it's something I just need to stop doing altogether. And it's just time to be freed of whatever the thing is that's not giving me my desired outcome. And
I
so if
love that.
manifesting is just creation, then I think we need to get clear on that. And I think part of the problem with the word manifesting is that it's been an overused word in many incorrect ways for people to make money off of other people with a lot of malice and and not good intention, because it's a great word to prey on people who have shit going on in their lives and they're not happy with what's going on in their lives. So I'm going to pay this person who's going to teach me to build the life of my dreams through manifesting, and they're going to give me all the answers and tell me all the things to do because, ooh, big flashy manifesting, create your life, da, 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 da. All language I used to use, but the energy behind it was pure, versus a lot of people who are out there. And it's not even about naming names or any of that, but there's a lot of stuff out there that so many people we've seen it. You and I have seen it. We've talked about it before. We know when things are bullshitty.
I think that's such a good point for everyone listening. When something sounds too good to be true, chances are it is. And you usually have some inkling, whether it be a clench in your belly or your brow furrowing, or you're just like, oh, I don't know. And even as you're getting your credit card out to type the number in or hovering over the enter button, there's some, you're not fully convinced, but you do it anyway. And I think the way you framed it, like what comes up for me is, if I buy a course or hire someone who's going to help me manifest my desires, it feels like it's separate from me, as in like something magical is going to happen. I'm going to put my beans into the cauldron and next thing I'm going to have a stalk and I'm going to climb to giant land. Whereas if you're like, Suze, you create your reality, well, fuck, I'm stuffed. Like, because left to my own devices. And I think, something about, creation or co-creation or, but when you do realize that you do create it and you can uncreate it. And I think I loved how you said something along the lines of, even if a situation changes, just changing your attitude about it. Like very recently, Casimir smashed my crystal water bottle. I was not impressed in any way, shape or form. It was expensive. I liked it. It felt fancy. It was a bit bougie. And I was really cross, but only for a short period of time. But then I was like, I have little people around. Like, there's people who are trying so hard for that. And it came easily to me, or if if someone's breathing down your throat about something, you're like, oh my gosh, is that person? It's like, well, I have a paycheck, or I have there's changing your attitude about the situation. Because sometimes I think when we're in the mud, as you aptly described, but the mud's where lotuses come from, and that's all we can see and all we can smell and all we can feel. But there is fertilizer, or there's things growing from that. But nothing is ever just mud, and nothing is ever just wonderful. Like, I think sometimes the same thing can happen when you see a mum having a meltdown and having a bad day and reaching out to say, people will be like, oh, at least you could have kids. Some people can't have them. And it's like, that's not helping someone who's having a really freaking hard moment. So it's like, the mud pies to manifesting, seeing the angle of what you're creating and allowing it to not be any one. Like, I don't like the term good and bad. I know you don't like either, but nothing is ever all of one thing. It has flavors of both associated with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that with anything we want to create, we do have the power within us to do it. And I think that that's a lot of the work that I do with people, because it's the work I've done on myself. for many, many years before I even breathed a word of any of this to anybody else. And I got all of my original teachings from all of the original teachers that are out there, and anybody can do their own Google search. And then over time started to connect with other teachers who would talk about like manifesting and creation and all of that, and really kind of understand that you have to get into the weeds with it. It's not just like writing out a grocery list. That's a good start, but that list is not just the thing that just, you know, snap your fingers and it happens. You've got to be fully on board with, energetically, from a healed place, from an aligned place, with the things that you're desiring. Because if you don't deal with trauma, if you don't deal with wounding, if you don't deal with your unhelpful beliefs and thoughts and core patterns of what you do and how you are in the world, how are you going to create all these things? Because if you could have created it already, you would have.
Yes. And one thing, we're at time, but I'll just finish with this thought too. As you said, people can Google it. There's the books, there's resources and whatever. But a coach or a book or a podcast doesn't change you. You change you based on the action you take, listening, reading, absorbing that information. And I think that's something you and I've talked about before, but we didn't actually touch on in this episode. But sometimes people, I feel, associate manifesting with magic, as in, like, I just, as you said, I write a wish list and then, oh, it's here, like Mary Poppins style. And it's like, there is some action required on your part. Doesn't need to be exhausting, doesn't need to be Sisyphus style, pushing a freaking rock up a hill and getting run over by it repeatedly. But, you know, none of these people do it for you. You do it with their assistance, like a co-creation, or based on what you learn from them. So, you know, people who have the results because they've actioned, not because it was magically handed to them. Because if it was magic, then yeah, there wouldn't be so many books on the topic and so many coaches and so many people who do it. It sounds so basic, but it's so true. It's kind of like, you know, I did an episode on it, you know, don't sell your cow for magic beans. But we keep doing it. We keep going back there. So anyway, Thank you so much for joining me once again, Heather. What do you do and how can people find you?
So I help people get to the true elements of who they are through mindset work and energy healing and clearing and connecting with, you know, the internal truth of their experience versus the way they've been taught to be or conditioned to be. And so intuitive healer / energy maven / spiritual guide, with a healthy helping of life and business coaching as desired by clients.
I love it. And where can they find you?
I am at the Heather Tobin on Instagram, Facebook, and my website is Heather Tobin. So Heather traditionally spelled HEATHER, last name TOBIN .ca, not at, just
because you're from Canada. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me.
I do. Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.